Good evening from Tokyo, where IAFOR is having its annual Asian Conference on Art and Humanities, Cultural Studies and Social Sciences in 2025. My name is Apipo Seitang, and I am the Academic Coordinator from the International Academic Forum. And joining me here today are the eminent scholars who just gave a panel presentation. Professor, could you introduce yourself for us, please?
Good evening. I'm Kiichi Fujiwara at Jun University, International Studies. Happy to be here.
I'm Marie Lall. I'm Professor of Education South Asian Studies at UCL in London and also at Keio University here in Tokyo.
Hi, good evening. I'm Umberto Ansaldo. I'm the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences at Vinh University in Hanoi.
Hello, my name is Jun Arima, a visiting professor at the Graduate School of Public Policy, University of Tokyo.
You gave a panel presentation. It's titled Peace Education in Times of Conflict. And we have a very good response from the audience as well. So Professor Ansaldo, since you're the moderator of the session, can you briefly tell us what is peace education?
Thank you for the question. So the aim of this panel was to discuss the possibility of peace education within the current context of a lot of geopolitical shifts and the times of conflict, and to get really challenging views on what it would mean to have an educational system that really aims to foster, first and foremost, thought leaders who think about peace. And as our panelists told us, there are big challenges that are systemic and organizational challenges that make this a very, very hard job, but nonetheless a job that sooner or later we need to be able to get right.
Then may I address to Professor Fujiwara then, what have we missed in the past when we were talking about peace education, and what has that taught us?
Peace education, in the traditional sense, was focused on the possibility of nuclear annihilation. And it developed during the days of the Russo-American Cold War. So there is an understandable attention to the role of nuclear weapons in challenging our future. But at the same time, there was less attention given to other kind of wars. And as a matter of fact, as we are living in the midst of war of various kinds, then peace education should not be limited only to nuclear issues. And also, much of the education centers on the role of civilians in wars, without much understanding about international relations as such, that leads us to war. And then discussion about war was bound by national boundaries in many ways. So the real challenge, I believe, is to cross national boundaries and see a possibility of thinking about peace education in a cross-border sense. It's a big challenge.
Are there any overlaying layers of issues beyond the curriculum for peace education? For example, as Professor Fujiwara just addressed, nationalism, or could it be domestic, regional, or global politics, or probably institutional constraint of some kind?
I think I'd like to sort of rephrase your question slightly, because actually most countries don't do peace education. Okay. Most countries just do education. And education is, as I mentioned this morning in the panel, very much to governments use education as a political tool to create particular national identities. And those identities have the main function to make society as cohesive as possible. So the ideal in many governments' minds or many states' minds is if you have a diverse set of people, but they all believe that they have a linguistic identity that matches and a wider national political identity that matches, then you will minimize conflict between them. But actually that's not what happens. By enforcing a particular national identity or a linguistic identity or a religious identity, you are in effect enforcing this on minorities, and that creates issues between majority and minority populations, resulting in domestic conflict, but also sometimes international conflict. So peace education is something which is completely different. It's a curriculum which is applied by sometimes NGOs or other civil society organizations, but rarely by governments themselves, because governments don't have peace at the heart, they have a cohesive society at the heart of what they want to provide with education.
Right. It's when you focus it on the state, it's kind of more paradoxical in a way, right? Because you're trying to create peace, but while at the same time you're creating another set of people.
I'm not sure actually governments try to create peace. I think governments very much try to focus on creating a functioning society where there is rule of law and order. And generally the idea for many decades has been that if you had one cohesive belief, this doesn't matter if this is Asia, if this is Europe, or anywhere else in the world, if you had one cohesive set of beliefs that people all adhered to, ultimately you ended up having a cohesive society with fewer conflicts within society. That was the aim of most, or has been the aim of most governments. I don't know of any government that puts peace at the forefront of its curriculum. Mostly it's about economic possibilities and social cohesiveness. Those are the main aims of education.
May I go into a more broader international context first? May I go to Professor Jun, Professor Arima. How do you perceive the role of international organizations in promoting peace and peace education, or in a way leading to effective conflict resolution?
Oh, very challenging question, because I'm not an expert on peace education, but I have been participating in this panel for my expertise on international climate issues, and there are some commonalities between international peace issue and international climate issue. Both of them are global challenges, and both of them are caused by human beings. So at the end, the mindset of the human beings matters a lot. So in this regard, education plays a very much important role. And looking at the current situation, there is a serious, gap in terms of education. For example, the level of challenges caused by climate change, and also level of magnitude, how much, the magnitude they have to pay for tackling climate change problems, and also to what extent they are willing to pay. Those issues needs the higher awareness about the challenge, and also their willingness, and also their readiness, and so on. And international organization could play a very much important role, because they could convene the forum for discussing these issues, say gathering global audience and also global participants from every country. So therefore, this sort of, the awareness building might ultimately play a role for solving international problems, I hope.
In terms of international research, what is missing in peace education that the academic community should look at?
I actually think that in terms of research, we are probably doing a lot better than in other aspects of education. In terms of research, most research communities that I've participated in are very international, interdisciplinary groups where sharing of data, sharing of knowledge is essential to the advancement of our understanding. Where I think we are in a situation of struggle and where we are challenged is more in our curricula and in the missions that institutions are actually subscribing to, because I think that our panelists have been absolutely brilliant in spelling out the battle lines, if you excuse my metaphor. It's about what is higher education about? Is it about producing successful people within a national narrative? Or do we raise the stakes, and are we about producing thought leaders who will actually actively contribute to a mission of peace? And it seems to me that for the moment we're not doing the latter. We're thinking about extremely important realities, but nonetheless much more constrained and smaller realities than global peace actually asks us to do.
From the South Asia experience, what is the best practice to promote peace and peace education, given the current context?
Well, I think we've just come out of a situation where India and Pakistan were in conflict with each other just a few days ago. Mostly that conflict has historical roots with regard to Pakistan's approach to India and India's approach to Pakistan, seeing the self and other as the enemy. So I actually don't personally think that schooling or higher education holds the solution in this. The best practice that I've seen are connections between students across schools. So the best peace education seems to happen when a Pakistani school has links with an Indian school where teachers and students are able to visit each other, write to each other, and exchange ideas with each other and realize that they're actually not that different. Those are the best experiences of peace education in practice that I can point to. Thinking that governments and states are going to change curricula is very unlikely to happen. So I think it's left very much to educators to try and instill what we discussed this morning, a critical mindset, but many situations, many schools in South Asia don't have, because they're dealing with large student-teacher ratios, they're dealing with limit time constraints. So the best thing that schools can do is have these links across the border. But again, that is not for your ordinary government schools, for your ordinary people. It's very much the middle and upper middle classes and perhaps even the elites that can enjoy these kind of links. So unfortunately, we need to find mechanism where this can percolate down to perhaps ordinary schools and ordinary families, where young people, students and children can actually interact with each other and realize that we're not that different.
Thank you very much. Now, may I go to Professor Fujiwara, please? What is the sentiment of the Japanese public when consuming international news, or even media or movie or something like that? Does it affect the way people or schools or university or even government think about peace or peace education in general?
Well, certainly, the public attention to news media is very much focused on domestic issues and non-political issues. Say, a scandal that involves a certain entertainer would grasp huge public attention. And the only chance where international affairs attract much attention is when we have major calamities. It could be a natural disaster, it could be a war, it could be a collapse of the international market. Anything massive that crosses national boundaries would be the chance when international news would be covered and gain public attention.
What is the role of the media in promoting peace or peace education? And what are the cautions or ethics around it? Because in the panel you were talking about public memories and how that shapes the way people think about peace.
And just like education is organized along government directives and government directed curricula, media frames many issues, many events that take place in international affairs in a nation-bound perspective. How the Japanese are reacting to this, what the Americans are doing to us, what the Chinese are doing to us. It's as if nations are collectives and the media is sponsoring that nation's perspective. We don't really see a more detached view about what is going on in the very general sense. To reach that stage, we need interaction between the academia and the mass media that phrases issues in terms of nation states. And that requires knowledge, and that's where, well, we can play a role.
So this is from the international relation, probably from the international relation framework. As one of the emerging powers in the world, what can South Asian countries as a regional power do to influence global peace?
Well, if you would ask India what it's doing to influence global peace, you can see that the Indian government hosted the G20 and has done, the Modi government has done an incredible amount of work to try and show leadership across the developing world. And they see this as part of their role in promoting peace and harmony across developing countries. So the government would probably point to that. But then it would also be good that that is applied regionally within the South Asian region. And hopefully we won't see any more further conflict between India and Pakistan, which, as we just mentioned, we're just filming this right at the time when the ceasefire was agreed. So India needs to do something locally as well as internationally. Internationally, they might be pulling their weight very well. Locally, I think a little more work would still be required.
We're talking about international universities. Are there any significant differences in perception about peace among universities in different regions, given you have been in Hong Kong, and you've been in Australia, and now you're basing in Vietnam? Are there any differences in that, and what do you think caused it, if there are any differences?
I think at least all the universities that I have experienced have at some level a commitment to nurturing the next generation of change makers, and that would include the next generation of peacemakers. But I think that for the moment, the way we're going about it is that we are hoping that in the excellent education that we think we are providing them, they will find their path towards positive solutions. And my sense is that we need to become much more proactive in what it means to get them to the point where they can be genuinely thought leaders for a better society. And I think we still have a gap to fill there, and that is why I've become again interested in peace education and in a possible new formulation of how such a framework might be implemented in university curricula and how that might help us in fostering that new generation.
What role does climate change or climate concerns can play in peace education? For example, could it be the common goal for the humanity?
Yes, in terms of climate change, we have somehow the common goal for containing the increase of temperature increase since Industrial Revolution within 1.5 2 degrees Celsius goals. So this is a global vision we are aiming at, but actual progress towards that global vision is very lag behind. And then, frankly speaking, we have already missed 1.5 degrees Celsius goals. But we should not give up, and then we should continue our pathway for decarbonization. But at the same time, we need to understand that mitigation is not cost-free, so people have to pay. So in order to do so, people need to realize that they are tackling some actions which could cost for their daily lives. So that kind of, the understanding is quite important. Then coming back to the education issues, education plays a role. And also finally, as Professor Fujiwara said during the panel, how to overcome our vision about national boundary. So that is a key issue because climate change is a global issue and global peace is also global issues.